Hello F11 members and welcome to the Fundamentals of Post-Production video tutorials for issue 35 December 2014. Okay, in this second one this month what I'm going to do is take you into the woods in California, in Sequoia National Park to be precise, and if you have watched the accompanying video blog for this month you'll have seen me shooting these pictures here in the woods in a very high contrast situation featuring a burnt out log and some very high tall trees, and I used the 17mm tilt and shift lens here, and I talk about on the video how I'm really struggling with the contrast but want to give it a go. So here we are. Let's go through how I'm going to deal with this. Now I've shot two exposures here, one for the shadows and one for the highlights, and what I'm going to do is first of all try and bring back as much shadow detail and highlight information as I can in both of the images before then taking them into Photoshop to merge them. So let's get on with that process. So here we have the brightest image, and what we have is a clipping of the shadows there, and you can see down here in the darkest area of the picture shadow clipping. Not much really. I've exposed this image really for the shadows, but there's pretty significant clipping in the highlights. And if I take you through now to the brighter image here, we can see again both clipping of highlights there in the shadows and, well, very few in the highlights. So let's start with the brightest image, and what I'm going to do first is try and retrieve as many of the highlights as possible, and to do that I'm going to pull back highlights all the way to -100, all the way. Pretty extreme actions here, but needs must to deal with the contrast. Now with the shadows I'm going to boost them all the way to there. Now you can see I'm going to go +74. I'm still got just a few clipping, but if I hover my cursor over there, hardly any, and really you have to ask yourself, a few shadows in that darkest part of that stump blocking in is not the end of the world. The end result of doing all that is an image that looks quite flat as a pancake, quite frankly. So what I'm going to do now is use Lightroom's preset, medium contrast preset. Quite a useful thing to do that excuse me, and just put in a touch of vibrance because we've pulled the contrast back quite a lot. Just putting some vibrance in. Excuse me, I'm going to need some water here. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, but a bit of vibrance really helps. And at this point I'll put some sharpening in. Just use the preset there, Sharpen Scenic, over here, and then hold down Alt and adjust mask until it affects just the sky, around about 17 there. Okay, that's fine, and that's it. What I'm going to do now is copy those adjustments and go to the darker image, and now I just go paste, and those same adjustments have been applied to the darker image. I'm now ready to export them and start bringing them together in Photoshop. So I'll do that and see you there. So I've got them both open now in Photoshop, the 16-bit TIFFs, and I want to merge these exposures. So let's have a look at them alongside each other. So if I go Window, Arrange, and 2 up, Tile, 2 up, Vertical, there they are next to each other, and I'm just going to move this over here so it's out of the way. Move layers out of the way for the moment. We'll bring it back, keep the operating area, the desktop, nice and ordered, and what I'm going to do it always pays to just stop, think, and get clear in our minds what we're going to do it before we do it, rather than hoping to stumble across a solution. So I'm going to copy this darker image and paste it as a layer on top of the brighter image. I'm then going to apply a layer mask to show only the part of the dark image that I want to on top of the bright image. I can then choose to fine-tune the mask edge to make sure that the division between the dark image and the bright image looks natural. So let's get to it. First thing I do, select the dark image, go select all, edit, copy. Go to the bright image and go select edit and paste. Helps if you get it right, doesn't it? Edit, paste. Okay, so now I'm just going to close down the dark image. I don't need that anymore. Bring in the layers palette, and there you can see what we have here is the dark image as a layer. Let's just move that out of the way. As a layer on top of the bright one. Okay, there's a bit of movement between the two in the cloud, but as the join is going to be down here in the trees, I don't see that being a problem. So now what I want to do is select the area of the dark layer that I want to show, and it's the top bit. So we'll do that, and I'm just going to use the lasso tool here to select the brighter area of the image, and I don't need to be too precise with this because using layer masks I can always refine this selection afterwards. Okay, so now I go select, modify, feather, and I'm going to feather that selection by 300 pixels, which is a big distance across that edge, which will give it a very soft transition. Shouldn't be noticeable at all. If I go like that, and now what I do is I go layer, layer mask, and it asks me what my options are, and I want to reveal the selection. So now if you look over here in the layers palette, what we have is the dark on top of the bright, but there's a mask being applied. The black is where the mask is applied, and that black bit is hiding the top layer, letting us see through to the brighter layer underneath. Now what I can do now, if I'm not happy with this selection, is adapt the layer mask by using the paintbrush tool to show through more or less of the bright layer underneath. So what I want to do is paint, use the paint tool. So first of all, let's select that, it's over here, paint there, and now I can adjust my, using square brackets key on the keyboard, my paintbrush up or down, comme ça. Now what I want to do, this is where it's easy to get confused, but you really need to step back and think about what you're doing, is I want to paint away some of that mask so that some more of the dark section is being applied just to some of these areas here where I'm fine-tuning that these areas which look just a little bit too bright at the moment. It looks good, but we can do better. So I make sure the layer mask is applied, I've activated the paintbrush, and I want to paint in, I need to think about this, don't I? I want to paint in white, and that you can see the white is over black there. If I hit X on the keyboard, it swaps them around, but I want to paint in white. Okay, I'll go up here now, and I want my opacity to be around about, let's say, 25%. And now if I start painting, you can see it's darkening down that area of this area of the image. What it's doing is painting away that mask so that I'm seeing more of this dark top layer. And really all I want to do is these darkest bits, the brightest bits of this burnt out stump here, just bring them up a touch here. And really it's very subtle, and if I make a mistake I can always go back on myself by using paintbrush painting in black to paint back in the mask that I've taken too much out of. Very flexible, very useful tool, and really you can see I've done very little there, but I'm quite happy with that image now. And the key question is, does it look believable? It certainly, I think it does. It doesn't look too unbelievable with the extreme range of tones there. It certainly doesn't look like an HDR picture, which would be absolute death. And if I go back to Lightroom where we started, let me just get that up for you. So that's the image in Lightroom, the brighter image before we started working on it, and here we have the image in Photoshop. Quite a radical difference, and I'm quite pleased with that. One thing to be aware of, boosting shadows that much, is that it can cause problems with noise. Boost shadows too much, the levels in shadows and noise can start to come through. So let's just double check on that. I zoom in to 100% and look in the darkest shadows of the area, of the image area, down here in this dark stump here, and quite frankly I can't see any noise, which is really quite incredible when you consider how much we've put into those shadows. So there you go, using exposure merging, layer masking, shadow and highlight recovery to bring out the most in a high contrast situation. That's it for this month. We'll see you again next month, F11 members. Thank you.